We are live, my people. This is Two Dads United. Stu Holden, Steve Nash, Luca Nash making his second or his third appearance tonight. The little legend.
He's made a little run at it.
Oh, something happened there. Somebody's asked Siri a question.
That'd be impressive. We're taking your questions tonight, but has someone hacked your phone and asked?
I don't know. I was in Russia. Oh, we've got two Nash kids in the house.
Yeah, there's Mateo. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hey, Lucas.
Hello.
What do you want to talk about today, Mateo?
I don't know.
Do you want to talk about your favorite Uber driver?
This one stopped.
That'd be
There
me.
isn't a favorite.
Here, Steve, baby
This
handoff.
guy. Follow the thumb. Yeah.
Steve Nash, you should have gone to the Knicks instead of the Lakers. They said the sound is off.
God, I love getting feedback from our audience.
Whenever we think it's all sorted out.
You guys are all co-producing this with us.
Hi, Instagram over there. We are watching you guys. We are going to be taking your questions too. I promise.
Yeah, but tonight we definitely want to lead the conversation.
This is the newly dubbed Fan Friday. How about that?
You know what? You didn't run it by me.
I just went publicly.
My massive ego can't deal with that type of thing.
Okay, I gotta watch the movie. Bye.
Okay,
Okay,
bye.
thanks,
What movie
Mateo.
are you
Excellent
watching?
appearance.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Never heard of him.
Now you have.
How do you know?
All right, Steve. I think I've sorted this one.
The sound seems to be good.
Okay, this one.
Okay, yeah. Everyone says audio.
Everyone says the audio's better.
Yeah.
Yay, baby!
Thanks for joining us Friday
right.
night.
Hi, Lucas. Stop staring at me. You're making me uncomfortable.
Desde México.
Saludos a México. Vamos. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Aquí con Steve Nash es el 12 episodio de Two Dads United. That's Spanglish?
So is that news out about Landon?
There's rumors. It's just a rumor.
There's
Yeah,
rumors that Landon Donovan's been offered a big contract to play one more year in Mexico,
yeah.
which is interesting.
It should be interesting.
Yeah,
Really interesting.
I mean, go for it.
Crack on.
Yeah, go for it. If
I
I
think
could, I would.
You know what? In the major... I'm having a real stinker here, Steve.
Saludos de Argentina.
Steve, the Bundesliga was back today.
Yeah, I
Bayern
heard.
Munich resumed normal service. So this was our...
Swansea, love it. My mom's from Swansea.
We got some Swansea
Okay, bye,
people.
little guy.
Bye, Luca.
Mommy's here.
Here, I want to ask you the question that was brought up on our pregame show today. And I want to get your take.
Yeah.
Do you think and this could go for any league, but currently in the European soccer leagues, you have Manchester City, whatever point gap, it's 10 plus. Bayern Munich have a 14-point gap. Barcelona have, I think, an 8-point gap over Atletico. In Serie A is the only currently close one. PSG have a significant gap. Do you think that they're like one team being superior and running away with the title is bad for a league or bad for soccer?
I think if it happens forever and ever, it can be. I mean, I would say the league that's had that problem the most is, would you say Germany?
Probably the Bundesliga, yeah.
Having said that, it's one of the most competitive leagues top to bottom. I think it's interesting every year. I've grown to like it a lot and recognize how good it's gotten in the last 5-10 years. I'd put it just below, Spain and England, I'd say. But it's right there. Incredible, I think, coaches in Germany, mentality, and a lot of great athletes as well that are smart.
So one of my points was, well, at least in Germany, right, everybody kind of recognizes Bayern are the best team and they're going to, like Dortmund sell to them, Schalke sell to them, Hoffenheim sell to them, and it's almost conceding the title in many respects to a Bayern, but they keep the best players within Germany. I mean, if you go to in England and someone said to me, well, Man City winning the league, is that by such a big margin, is that bad for the Premier League? I said no, because it actually shows the ambition and putting everything together, and it forces the other teams to then spend more money to compete if you want to win a title. And Manchester United is going to go and spend another 150, 200 million because they're not happy finishing second, nor is Tottenham, nor is Chelsea, nor is Arsenal, right? Well, Arsenal are happy just finishing fourth.
I don't know if you can put Tottenham in there. We don't quite have the budget.
No, you don't spend the type of money.
But we want to grow.
Yeah.
We're building a stadium and all that stuff. So, but I think you look at it, England's got, like you said, they're going to raise their game because there's so many teams that want to compete. They're not going to sit back. and part of that's because it's lucrative. But in Germany, there is one dog. I mean, at least in Spain, you have Real and Barca that are, I don't know if they're financially responsible, but they can spend. So and I think in France, it's unfortunately a situation where, the Middle Eastern money, I believe, has come in and has just basically changed the whole market, because PSG hasn't been great like the last 20 years.
No.
But
for a while there, Lyon were dominating the French league.
So I mean, it's one of those things. I think everything's cyclical, and you have to ride these waves. And there's been, there's a great, I think someone wrote a book about it. There's a great article talking about how, football teams are becoming like the war chest that nations used to spend their money on. Like now, there's individuals and companies that are as wealthy as nations, and like instead of like, you know what I mean? What can you spend your money on?
Yeah.
Like that gives you prestige.
Well,
a football club, right?
Football
Global
club.
brand.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing is who just got sold? Coutinho recently, whatever, it was 106. You could buy an MLS franchise for 160 million. Would you rather buy one player in Coutinho, or do you rather buy a team in a professional sports league in America that's an emerging sport?
That was going to play more than a 10-year career.
It's incredible. Somebody actually asked you what your thoughts are on the Alexis Sanchez. Potentially, the initial rumor was that he was going to go to Man City, and now they're saying they're going to go to Man United.
Yeah. United apparently is offering him way more wages, more transfer fee, and Mkhitaryan. Which I'd like to see him go to City as a Tottenham fan. But hey, look, I think it's time. He's got to move on. He wants to go.
Yeah, he wants to go.
And not that I'm trying to help Arsenal out, but it's a situation where for their health, they need to get rid of him and move on. So we'll see what happens there. But it's one of those tricky situations we're seeing now, like Coutinho and Sanchez, and you got these top players at massive clubs that are going to a club that's just above them, and it's.
I know.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
the nature
a number
of the beast.
Players have done it, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and speaking of all these players, these massive players in the UK, I think 95% of the top 30 Premier League footballers were all at the NBA game in London. I mean, they love it. Marcos was there. Jeff Cameron was there. Sorry, Jeff,
Cameron?
you're not a top 30.
Jeez.
Just saying he's an American that was there. Did you always find in your
Jeff,
career?
were you bigging up your chest because you're American in an NBA game?
I know NBA. You guys don't.
He's from the Boston.
He's Boston.
Area,
Yeah, he was one
so
Celtics guy. Yeah, I saw him. He put a tweet out today. Thanks Celtics and NBA UK for. He was probably there
They
yelling
rolled
like
the red carpet.
loud mouth.
Oh God! His teammates
Northeast.
today were probably rolling their eyes.
Do me a favor,
Shut him
Jeff
up.
Cameron. Did you notice that though? That you support in the UK was big.
Yeah, well,
for basketball.
I was on a panel at CES on Thursday, and the head of marketing for UEFA said that it's like one of the biggest events this time. This far into the season in Europe, because I think largely because so many footballers are there, which drives so much media. So there's something like 40 countries and hundreds of press come out to this game. And I'm not sure that the UK cares that much about it. It's just because it's there one time, and all the footballers are like,
it's kind of the event.
They're in the middle of pop culture.
Listen, man, pop culture is a big draw. I think when I lived in the UK as an American, and even though I am British by birth, but everyone wants to talk about American pop culture, and sadly the Kardashians or NBA or NFL, and people love when those events come to the UK, because it is, you do grow up listening to, let's say, P. Diddy or Dr. Dre or whoever it might be, right? And that has a big who did you say?
Shania Twain.
Shania Twain.
Nice one.
Taylor Swift. But it's interesting when those events come to the UK. Everybody wants to go, and that's I would say that's the part of American culture that people mainstream really love.
Yeah, I mean, I think America's done a good job of making stars out of nothing.
Yeah.
and selling their stars. But I mean, it's good to see all the footballers out. I think that cross promotion is great. It's good for everybody. It's good for soccer. It's good for basketball.
Did you care if you played a game in the UK? Because there was even talks at one point about an NFL franchise being based in London.
Well, I was just going to say to you, I'm a Seahawks fan growing up in the Pacific Northwest or British Columbia. Seahawks, Raiders, October 14th, Spurs new stadium.
Did you see the renderings of how that's going to be done?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's beautiful.
I mean, they're going to move the pitch. It goes into a thirds, and I just hope for the football part, the soccer part, that they don't have problems with the turf, because people in the UK are sacrilegious about their type of grass. Yeah. And if the grass is not pristine, or if it's cutting up, like Wembley for the last however many years, just can't get the
what's going on?
Yeah, just can't get the pitch right. And it was like, it's hurting the English national team. The games, the FA Cups are a disgrace.
It's embarrassing.
It is. I mean, how do you not get that right?
I'm expecting pucker playing service at the new White Hart Lane. So I think it'll be fine.
You're not going to get a
is,
game there other than a charity match.
God,
Maybe we could do a
I
kick-in
don't even think I'll get that.
Kick-in for the Nash Foundation over there.
At least I want to see that ball zip around when my boys are playing.
Who's your favorite soccer player ever, somebody's asking?
My hero growing up was Glenn Hoddle. You know that name?
Hoddle.
You know that name?
Yeah, are you kidding?
Legend. Like
Love Hoddle.
They called him at White Hart Lane at Tottenham. They called him God. You know, that literally come out of the game and say,
Okay. There's not many better names.
walk around the stadium. People be like, God was brilliant today.
He found God as well, didn't he?
He did find God apparently, and some other things.
What were the other things that we can't talk about?
Well, you know, he got a bit. You know, remember when he coached the national team in France '90? I don't think you remember. Didn't he? He got a little,
bit of
mystical. No, just a bit mystical. Anyways,
By the way, how was CAS?
CS was good. I was on an awesome panel. Turner Sports did a great day of panels, and I was on a panel with the COO of Twitter, the
Did you ask him to boost our podcast
Yeah, I was
when
like,
we tweeted out?
come on, man. You know, I played it cool. The commissioner of the WNBA, Ernie Johnson, was from inside the NBA. Was
Yeah,
the
big fan of his.
narrator. He's an amazing
He's
guy.
a- he's
And
a-
by the way, amazing person.
Is he really?
He's what?
I love, I mean, obviously the Inside the NBA
Yeah.
studio show and being in TV, it's, recognizing how hard that show is to pull off from like a dynamics perspective and to get the right mix. But you also need a conductor when you have wild cards like Shaq and,
just
Kenny
speaking over you the whole
Yeah,
night.
just talking over. But to be able to like bring that back from here and just navigate it, I think he does such a good
he's
job. At it.
unbelievable, and he's all class. He's like a humanitarian. He's
But the other one too, Steve, is he like when big social issues come up and he's willing to address them head on and just dive straight in and doesn't hide from them and uses his platform and speaks in a very eloquent way, I think.
He does. He's very heartfelt. He also the NBA is a leader in that. As a league, we've always been willing to comment on social issues. The league has supported players in that respect, and Ernie's a great voice for us in that respect, representing us, narrating, or moderating those conversations. So Ernie was there, and then the head of marketing of UEFA, and Mr. Levy, the head of Turner Sports. So it was a great panel. I got to tell you though, he asked me a question about who. Like Ernie said, well, who's your audience? I've retired. I think he was like, now who's your audience? Because I'm doing all this digital content. And he's like, he was saying he loved this interview I did with Kevin Durant on Vice Sports a couple of years ago, and he's like, I'm fascinated with how you're, breaking into that. And he said, who's your audience? And I said, well, actually, I try not to like think of who my audience is. I try to find my voice, like my like authentic voice, and be as truthful as possible.
And the audience will find
and the audience will find
me.
I said, so I kind of reverse engineer it by being truthful. And I thought, I'm at CES saying I'm reverse engineering my audience. I thought, what a dick.
They're talking right through you.
What a
like this guy is full of absolute.
What a dick. So, anyways, I literally wish I had have said that. Like, so let's stop this right here. I apologize for my comments.
No, but I mean.
I think it's true. But just
I would say though, I know what you mean.
There in a
Sitting on
panel,
top
like,
of a stage
I kind of
at
reverse
CES,
engineer it.
But there is no perfect recipe to digital content, in all honesty. I mean, there are certain roadmaps for, like, let's say, for example, a Jake Paul or whoever, and knowing how to reach their audience and resonates with their audience. But if you did everything that, for example, he did or another influencer did, it wouldn't resonate in the same way, right?
I actually think my point makes sense is that there's so many options now, and people are going to choose whatever they want. And I mentioned like for example Twitter, and the CEO is sitting right next to me, and I'm telling them how they run their business and how they win. But I was like, Twitter basically they're going to collect data, they're going to follow and find out everything they can about every person on Twitter, and they're going to build out algorithms that are going to tailor your experience to make it a home run for you. And if they do that, whoever does that the best is going to get the most of your time, and you're going to win. And that's the same for a content creator. If you, are able to be as authentic and comfortable sharing your life or whatever, your narrative is, you're going to obviously connect with an audience. If I tried to do what Jake Paul does, it would be painful. We'd probably have terrible episodes and few and far between, and it's not going to work. So,
but I think that to that detail of marketing in these days, it's almost scary as the consumer, right? When you are the consumer, and I use Twitter, I use Facebook, I use Instagram, and you realize how much these companies know about you more than they've ever known in the past, right? Because before, they can send a digital ad to your, or an ad linear through TV that'll come to your, if it knows you like a certain demographic. Now these days they have your exact likes, who you follow, how many times you're liking certain pages, how long you're watching a video. I mean,
data
so then just to be able to fine tune and throw things in. But when Twitter first curated my timeline, I didn't like it because it does, it is still at the end of the day an algorithm. And yes, I may click on certain things more than others, but it doesn't mean like the things I'm not interacting with, I don't enjoy looking at.
It needs a correction. It's over, I don't. They overdo it as far as like, you get tweets or you get on Facebook or Instagram. You all of a sudden you're getting like posts from a day or two ago and missing some. And then, I don't know how you feel about this, but like Facebook, a few years ago they said we're gonna implement fan pages, right? So a company, a brand, a personality can have a fan page. They can build their whole marketing platform on this page, and it's all free and open and everything. And so as soon as everyone builds it, then they say, actually, it's going to be like we're going to have net neutrality, so to speak. And then all of a sudden they say, well, actually, we're going to change that. And now apparently, like on Facebook, you reach 10% of your audience.
It's crazy.
Unless
you pay for it. You have to pay for paid ads, paid boosts.
And which I guess, like, as far as our society goes, I get it and understand it. It's just a shame that, you got a lot of people to invest their time and money to produce content,
and can't
to
reach
create
their
a page.
Followings.
And that was the promise, and then it's like,
now you can't reach that following you developed. Good thing I bought Facebook stock a while ago. No, I completely agree with you, though, man.
But I mean, it is that whole net neutrality.
It's where everything's going. I mean, why? If I'm an advertiser, and I want to sell you my product, why would I go and pay for a TV ad where I might reach the wrong audience?
And it's on TiVo.
And it's on TiVo, and people are going to fast forward through it. And actually, Karen and I were talking about this the other day. We use YouTube TV, which is great. It's amazing. But if you want to watch something on DVR, you still have to watch through the ads. So like you'll bring it up. It's on demand. You have unlimited DVR, but you still go to the product, and you're going to get maybe one commercial break. You're going to get 1 30-second ad. The next one, you're going to get a minute. The next one, maybe 15-second ad. But you can't fast forward through them. And Kara said to me, she said, I get annoyed that I can't fast forward through them. And I said, well, the advertisers get annoyed that you could fast forward through them before. So if you want to have the product on demand and be able to watch it whenever you can, and people are paying for that.
It's still figuring it out.
Yeah,
right?
they're still figuring it out. It's changing. It's incredible. I mean, we're going to look back in this conversation in probably 10 years, and Amazon and YouTube and Google and
at what point does the government step in and say, you could see a scenario where Google or Amazon, most likely Amazon, could be so big and omnipresent that like the government has to step in and be like, okay, there's a monopoly.
Conflict of interest. You're running our world.
And then I think the other thing is that it's changing so quickly. Okay, so I guess if you look at the history, like we had cassettes, and then we had DVDs and CDs, and then we have streaming, right? Our kids, my daughters are 13. They barely know what a CD or DVD is.
I know, it's crazy.
And then
this guy just said, "Do you remember when Amazon was a bookstore?"
Yeah, exactly. or it rated products at first, I believe. Didn't it? It was but my point is,
producer Ezra, used to be a jungle. Yes, the Amazon is.
Anyways,
still a
my
jungle.
point is that everything's changing by the year right now, right? Yeah. So yes, streaming is here, streaming will stay, but the application of it is it's constantly changing, and who knows where it's going to be in a year, let alone 5 or 10 years.
We did say this would be a questions episode, so fire away. Why is this one so bright? Is it
They're both bright. It's like nighttime.
I mean, I feel like we're completely white on this one.
Tian Tang, more drinks? Jog on, mate.
Steve, what was your, this is from Angela, what was your 8th grade science project?
What is this? Something
wait, here's your, someone said finish the punchline. Here's your joke. Alexi Lalas, Eric Winalda, Cal Martino, and Kathy Carter walk into a bar. That's a pretty good one.
I know who's going to imitate Michael Jackson. That'd be our boy, Cal Martino.
Martino, if you're watching, stop calling me all the time, mate.
God, that's not pandering to his base.
Yeah. Okay, TJ Lesser, what's up? He said, a lot has been said of late about the U.S. struggling to identify and develop youth soccer talent As questionable as the AAU system is, it certainly serves that purpose for the NBA. What positive methods? And then it didn't finish your question, my friend, because it was too long. But I'm going to guess that you were saying, what positive methods can soccer take from that?
I like this question, actually. What is the purpose of this live event? What the hell are you talking about?
We're not quite sure.
I mean,
you gotta shout 'em out.
yeah, I mean, we don't.
Tom,
we don't.
Tom, to be honest, we're figuring it out.
Yeah, we're figuring. Tom, you have a million options. Just
I'm going to have to turn the lights down a little bit.
you can't because the good camera where
good
we
camera.
cut clips up.
Okay, just let it crack.
You know,
in.
so you're gonna see us overbaked right now.
Steve, you and I were talking about this before, though. I mean, the content is... Oh, boy. That one's gone. Content is everywhere now, right? I mean, you can produce content on your cell phones like we currently are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You and I had an idea of, let's start a vodcast, podcast.
We don't even know what it is.
We don't know what to call it. We film on a number of different mediums. We film on another camera. We post it on our YouTube. If you haven't subscribed yet, go to all of our channels, Two Dads United. But, we're open to shaping this kind of however it grows, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, what we're doing now is fun, but I think ideally we'd love to keep expanding this.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we enjoy it. If we weren't sharing, we'd be hanging out anyway. So it's nice to be able to share and do something that we enjoy doing, and we enjoy interacting with you. So whether the live ends up being a thing that we continue to do, right now we're just trying to do everything and learn, what's our best voice and what people want to hear, and have some fun with it. That's it. It's not like rocket science, and it's not precious.
No. And it's free content. Actually, you don't even have to watch us. You can just flick it off your timeline right now and unsubscribe. And but if you do want to be a really great person, you should just like all of our channels.
Go on,
because
what do you comment?
Oh, there's lots of comments coming in. What are you doing
comment,
here? Get on top of that.
Somebody's
asking. Wait, I can't see your full name. Jay something said, "Can you please send me a Mallorca jersey?" What was your favorite summer jam concert? Stu, what's in the glass? Ooh, hashtag. You can guess, and I will confirm for you.
Have you?
White wine. There you go.
Hey Steve, super excited about your call for video interns. I'm excited to show you how I can take live videos to the next level. Applying soon.
What's your name?
Send it in, Bradley.
Oi,
Bradley Thomas Clark.
Bradley boy, I'll hit you up. Someone said, have you ever thrown a punch in an NBA game? And I'm like, I have not thrown a punch, but I clotheslined Avery Johnson when I was a rookie. In
That's
the
not even
playoffs.
fair. The guy's like 4'11".
He's 5'11".
It's like you fighting me. Oh my gosh, there's a lot coming in here.
The best was Ainge told me to do it.
Oh, he told you to
He was
clothesline?
my coach. He's
really?
He's like, foul him hard. Foul him hard. I didn't mean to clothesline him, but I picked him up full court, and he's like, foul him. Ainge comes from those
Can we pull
Celtics
this clip
days.
up somehow?
Where, those old Celtics days where it was like battles and the league was more physical. He's like, I think he's such a competitor, Danny, and he was so frustrated, and he was like, foul him hard. So I picked him up full court, and he went to make a move, and I went to hammer him, and I literally caught him across the neck. He went down, bench is clear kind of thing.
Oh, the bench is cleared?
Not like bench clear, but both teams in a scrum. I'm like the rookie, out there sacrificing.
See, I was never the guy to get in a fight. I mean, I'm not a big guy to begin with.
You think I was big in the NBA?
Well, that's true. Yeah. But I was always the guy that was like, when a fight started on the pitch only.
Yeah.
I jump in there because I know nobody's really gonna throw a punch. It's a bit of like fisticuffs and everyone's kind of shouting, so
handbags and purses.
I could look really tough. Yeah. And there's one, I think it's a GIF against Panama. This dude flopped down on the floor, and I got this close to his face, and I said, I can't repeat it on here, but you can clearly read my mouth on the screen, and I was like, if he saw me in a back alley, I would be absolutely gone the other way, nowhere near it. Would not want any part of a fight with him. But on the pitch, you had to look a little tough though.
Well, a lot of sports. I'm sure NFL has plenty of guys that would be up for a scrap. But have you ever seen NBA fights? Guys get all in their boxing pose, and then they're leaning back as they're throwing punches.
What was the Warriors game you and I went to in Oakland? There was a bit of a fight with Draymond.
It was Draymond, Bradley Beal, maybe, and but anyways, NBA fights are hilarious. But
what was the
NHL,
one? Oh, come on, what was the one? You run our test years ago. That was
another
I mean,
level. Another level.
next level. Like jumped over the.
But think about
the
this:
boards
like,
into
you
the
have
crowd.
these once in a blue moon fights in NBA. You got these big dudes that are like squaring up like they're boxers, and then they're like they're leaning back as they're throwing punches. Then you got the NHL, and it's like
Drop your helmet,
gloves,
hold on to each other's
hold on to each other's and just
crack.
battle till one drops.
Amazing. I just love in the NHL. There's a designated fighter.
Yeah.
Like it's like if we're gonna scrap, this is my guy.
I think that player, that role is dying, but unfortunately. But
These men are so nice. Thank you, Angela.
Harry Kane, best player in the world right now. Not going to argue that on this podcast.
Here you go. I like this question from Julie Chamberlain. She says, "What goal have you reached that gives you the most satisfaction?" It's an interesting one because you and I are both kind of along the lines of. I don't know. We were proud of what we achieved, but we don't sit here and celebrate it every day.
Sure.
It's not like, I don't know if you. I'm sure you take moments where you sit back and think about your career, right? And proud of that. I mean, is there a moment that sticks out to you?
It all kind of blends in. I mean, I think the proudest thing is just making it to the NBA. I mean, it was such a long shot. Like nobody would have ever scripted that I was going to make the NBA. Like a little, skinny kid from Victoria, British Columbia. So like just making it in the first place was like such an uphill climb that actually in many ways at that time was like, wow, I got here, I did it.
But you never thought about that during the moment, right? I mean, when you were in it, did you ever sit back and think like, wow, I made it here?
I did a little bit because there was like this glass wall for me in a way, glass ceiling, like whereas like, you can have this dream, but no one else really believes in it. And then there was a point where people started to believe in it, like in the last year or two before I played in the NBA. And it was like, so the wall was starting to come down, but it was still there. And it was like the people that believed in me were facing the people that were like, yeah, I know you guys think that, but come on. Like, like I didn't pass the eye test in a lot of ways. And so to actually get there and to be like, this is gonna be my career. And I knew once that when I got to the level where I was drafted in the first round, I was like, I knew I was gonna have a long career. I didn't know I was gonna be an all-star and all that stuff, but I knew I was gonna have a long career, and I knew that I was gonna fight like hell to be the best player I could be. But so all that stuff was just, after that was all a natural progression of like working my tail off and raising from a bench player to a starter to an all-star and all the way up. But what like the relevance in that moment was like getting drafted like in the first round and making it was crazy because it happened so quick, right? You think there's 4 years from having one scholarship offer and being a backup my first year, and then playing the two because I wasn't as good as the point guard my second year, and to being a first round pick is like, it's quick.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
So, what about you?
No, I mean, as you're talking, I'm kind of racking my brain and thinking through is, people have asked me, what would you do if you could go back? And I said, I don't want to go back to when I was 10 years old, because I think you underestimate yourself because you're so entrenched in it of how much work it actually takes to get to the top.
Yeah.
And, mentality and work ethic and bounces going your way and being, the right place, the right time, being talented, being, all these things that you could check. I mean, if you really do step back and you look at it, one spring game for me against the U.S. national team under 17s got me taken down to Florida, where I was seen by the 20s, and I scored 1 goal against Brazil, and like in 6 months I was professional. I don't know if if that doesn't happen, at what point and which way does my career go? But to think of all the work before that, of the club training sessions where you drive an hour and a half, of the work you do with the ball against the wall every day, working with my dad, playing against my brother. I mean, it is just an endless list of things that you did and boxes that you checked and you developed as a player. And in some way, you earned it, but you also got a couple of things that went your way, right? That maybe another player didn't.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, of talented players that fell through the cracks, or didn't get that bounce that went their way, or somehow lost their way. It's just, it really is amazing. And I would echo the fact that it is, I think, my proudest achievement when I think of it that way. I was a professional athlete. I made to the World Cup.
You
I
played in the biggest league in the world.
which I don't oftentimes think about, because when you're so entrenched in it, it's like, what's the next game?
Natural progression.
Yeah, you just keep going, you keep grinding, you keep pushing.
I agree. I think that's why I think what we're both saying is just getting there at first is like the biggest accomplishment, because especially we both came as like long shots. You took a walk-on position at Clemson. I always mix up Clemson and Auburn. Clemson, and I had one scholarship to Santa Clara, and nobody thought, I was going anywhere. And it's like, exactly what I think about is all those hours in my teens just shooting and dribbling and shooting and playing anyone who will play me one-on-one and finding a game anywhere I can and pushing every single day. And that also is like the best way to live your life, right? Like that is,
But you laid it on the line at one point too, right? I mean,
sure. I mean, so many times too, you're going to get to a place where you have to perform. Everybody's watching. You're going up against somebody who's trying to take your head off. And if you do not stand up for yourself and perform, you're not going to make it. And I would say that soccer is a little different than basketball. Like, there is a little bit more of luck and preference because there's so many top leagues. There's so many coaches with different values and principles. There's so many players. Basketball, I would argue.
How many on a roster in basketball?
Like, for example, there's 15 on an NBA roster. You can have 12 to 15 players. You can have two-way players that go up and down, but that just started. But my thing is that in basketball, like it's kind of, it's a lot more black and white in a way. It's not black and white, but it's a lot more black and white. So all the players on the margin in basketball, sure, some got lucky and some had no luck. But the majority in the middle of that, people on the margin, they made their own luck. Like they fought, they had that mentality that we always talk about, and they gave themselves an opportunity to persist and have that resilience to keep going, even when they're on the precipice and fight and make it. In soccer, I think it's so different because like there's so much competition. There's so little in it from player to player, and a lot of it's on opinion, right?
No, I'd agree.
In basketball, it's not so much opinion. I think you see it as it's happening. Like your team's getting crushed at one end of the floor, and if a guy can't live up to the expectation or the level at one end of the floor, it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly. But in an 11-a-side game that is massive around the world, there's a lot more of
and you can flow through, yeah, totally.
Right?
And that's why even like let's say if a new coach comes in for NBA, how many of a starting five would change or a rotation?
Yeah.
Not too many, right?
Not too many, right?
Like if a new coach comes in soccer, next day it could honestly be 5 or 6 players out the door.
Right.
Next 5 or 6 are up. He wants his guys, his
100%.
tactics, his.
100%. And how many times have you seen like an unbelievable player have a new coach come in and be like, "That's not my cup of tea.
Not having it.
It's not my cup of tea." And
Yeah.
like, in the NBA, it's really hard to do that because you need talent. Like, whereas in football, it's like everyone's talented. It's more about opinion and style of play and preference and
finding the right mix and the balance.
And a guy like, for example, one coach might be defensive, so he's going to lean this way. One coach might be attacking, he's going to lean this way. Like that could change a guy's career, right? And so, anyways, it's a topic. We could have a whole podcast on.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic, though. It's
the
nuances of making a team, too,
I think
right?
that's a great long topic. The other topic that I think that's interesting to me right now, watching from afar, is the NFL versus the NBA. Like just where they're at, because the NFL is the king, living on their castle on the hill. They have this huge viewership, and it's like this traditional America,
America.
It has this incredible thing, and at the same time, it's got now these controversies. Obviously concussions is the most important one. How that's going to affect youth sports. But there's also, the national anthem and all those things that have been going on this year. Whereas the NBA has quietly not had quite the viewership. It's still obviously a huge business, but they've marketed their stars. And in a digital age where social media is so huge, the NBA has a ton of equity in social media. So you look at going forward, it's kind of interesting, the way the NBA is.
Well, if you had cash to invest, where would you be putting your money right now?
I would
Let's just say per se. I know you have an allegiance to.
If I had to bet my house on it, I would say the NFL's peaking.
Yeah.
Right? And it's probably seen its peak. Whereas the NBA has a lot of upside. There's no health risks. They've invested heavily for a while now in technology. They do a great job interfacing with their fans and being inclusive. And they market their stars traditionally. And so for years and years and years, you've gotten to see these 5 guys on each team, no helmets, no masks, no hats. They're close up. You get to see it like a Broadway show. You see their emotion, the theater of it. Whereas the NFL's amazing, but he's got a helmet on. You don't know exactly what he's saying.
Yeah, people are almost murdering each other.
Yeah, and they're crushing each other. in the NBA, you put the camera on a guy in a heated moment. Half the time you're going to see him MFing someone.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's something that's just raw and authentic. So while the NFL is unbelievable, and I'd like to see it survive and thrive, because I think it's a huge part of the tradition and landscape of the country, but it's an interesting dynamic right now to see this inflection point where the NFL is seeing a lot of controversy.
But the worrying thing to me, though, is that, first of all, I love college football. Clemson Tigers had a rough year this year. I like watching NFL, too. I'm not a diehard supporter of those sports, but I will throw it on the TV if it's a good game. I get invested in the drama.
Sports is sports, right?
Everything that goes along with that. But in saying that, the worrying part to me is that all this stuff that's been published about concussions and CTE and the risks of playing football is, I still feel that the kids will still play the sport, and maybe you miss out on the top 2 to 5% of let's say would-be superstars, but there's always going to be people, if there's money there, people are always going to throw their bodies on the line to the detriment of their own health, which is a sad thing.
Sure.
Now, it doesn't have the wide mainstream marketing, I don't know, but I think still people in some way, in a sick way, love watching people smash each other and hit each other with helmets. And if you change football the way that we know it, and maybe you don't, they try to cut out some of the targeting hits, and it's always going to happen. I would rather watch basketball in that respect, because I know, or if better yet, if I had a kid that is 15 years old and he wants to play between football and basketball, he's only going to play soccer. I would have him play I would prefer him to play basketball than football, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's tricky. I think there's always going to be people willing to play, no matter what the health risks are, because the financial reward. Having said that, I think the audience, though, will look down upon it.
You think so?
I've heard a lot of people, for example, the other day I heard Ta-Nehisi Coates, the author, I don't know if you know him, but he's like, he doesn't watch the NFL as much anymore. I believe he said, I'm paraphrasing, it was because of the concussion issues, the way the league's handled it, the barbaric nature of it, that there's long-term health risks happening. So in good conscience, it's hard for him to watch, and a lot of people, because they know these guys are damaging their long-term outlook on health.
Yeah.
And then the fact that the way the league has handled some of these, social stances and the bigotry and some of the hatred, I think, that's come out of that, or the insensitivity to some of these issues has been difficult.
Yeah, it's been interesting because that's not been as prevalent in the NBA, has it?
Well, the NBA actually goes the other way. They're much more. I don't want to say liberal, but they're much more open to discuss human rights and equality and things of that nature. They're always supporting gay and lesbian rights. They're always supporting immigration laws and all these, different things that I think for example, we had a horrible bill in Arizona when I played there about, that you had the ability to stop any minority without reason to check their papers. And we stood up for it as a team, and I asked the team, do you guys want to make a statement collectively? So we wore Los Suns, obviously because it's going to impact the Latino community more than anything, and we wore those jerseys, and just the fact that the NBA would allow that, whereas the NFL, I think there's no chance. No, they've never had Los Cowboys, or you know what I mean, that type of thing. I don't believe, so I don't know, but
no,
they do have two different outlooks. And, we could get really deep into that. And again, it's another episode, but I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by how the NFL adapts to a changing media landscape, to the concussion issues, to the social issues that I think are going to become to Generation Z and the younger people. It's going to become really important, and it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt.
Yeah, I completely agree. Deep.
Deep. God, so deep. Fever pitch 3. Yeah, good one.
All right, let's keep cracking here. A couple more questions, guys. Fire away. I know we're really bright. Sorry about that. It is because we are recording on another camera, and I know Zach Lewis. We're trying to work with
this guy asked here. He's like, "Was there a defining moment in your NBA?" Hi, Brian.
This is our setup right here. I'll show you.
When you knew your time was done.
Here's the big old bright lights. This is Ezra. Hi, Ezra. Multiple streaming platforms. Oh, there you go. Zach says he loves us regardless.
Yeah.
See, maybe if we stick it there.
How's that better?
Yeah. Oh, careful, not my wine.
That was
phone's dead. See you later. How long have we been going?
Ezra has an iPhone 3.
I thought it was a Motorola.
Motorola. He's got the Razr
Clan.
flip phone. Oh wait, what is this one? Quick. Brian Kaufman, was there a defining moment in the NBA when you knew your time was done and when it was time to make a transition? Follow-up. Well, Brian, nobody asked for follow-up, but we're going to give it to you. How much did you rely on your reputation and brand in the NBA to make a transition into ...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I might have been done before I realized it. I think the athlete's the last to know. You know, like you still have this belief that you can do the things you've always done, and you see glimpses of it. So it makes you believe, and you're a competitor, and you have an ego, like a strong, id and all that stuff, where you want to battle on and you want to prove and overcome, especially when you've played. I played 18 years in the league. So
18 years. Oh my gosh.
I saw the moment come when I retired in training camp of my 19th season, and it was funny how it went down. I remember we played a first preseason game. I worked when I was with the Lakers. I came in, I worked so hard, came into camp. It was a weird camp. We ran
But body felt great at that point.
Body felt great. I was an all-star the season before. I think we talked about this in the last pod. I came in feeling great, feeling optimistic. I eat right. I did everything and, worked my tail off. I come into camp. It was a weird camp for rhythm because we had all these new players and we were running the Princeton offense, which didn't necessarily suit me, but also didn't suit us. It takes a long time to put it together. So for a month, you're on the court for long hours, not doing a lot. I want to be bam, 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 short and sharp and getting quick and
you're just
explosive.
grinding.
A lot of time you're standing around and doing drills and trying to learn and put this thing together. And then it didn't really matter because the first or second game of my Lakers career, I broke my knee joint and, was out 6-7 weeks. And it actually really interrupted my nerves in my whole body. And I still, to this day, I think I've told you, I feel it at all weird, random times.
Is that why you keep giving the ball away in the PPO?
Jeez, that hurts, man. I take pride in keeping that thing. Anyways, God, he's really got in my head there. But, I was never the same physically after that. But in your head, there's glimpses. There's days when you just feel amazing and you're doing things you've always done and you get to the spots and you make your shots and, you're a handful. You have great practices and you're like, I'm back. In your mind, you're like, I'm there if I just sustain it. And then, it was a rough ride. I only played 12 games my last year of my career, but I was like, I'm going to get over it this summer. I worked so hard. I went up to Vancouver and spent months with Rick Celebrini, my mentor and physiotherapist, and thought it was flying. And then came back and, I think there was this thing that I had to train so hard to get to the level because of my age and miles. And at the same time, that level that I had to train at to be ready was too much for my back, in the end. And so what happened was I was always I was beyond the cusp on both ends. If I didn't train enough, I wasn't sharp enough. If I trained too much, my back couldn't do it. We played our first preseason game in San Diego the season I retired. We drove down there. And
Back's hanging by a
we drove
thread.
down there and I actually felt all right, had a great warm-up. I actually played pretty well. It was after playing 12 games the year before, it was hey, there's a lot to build on here. I was excited. I think I can't remember what it was, but I made some shots, I made some passes and was it's there, I can build. And literally drove back from San Diego, woke up the next morning with back spasms. Jeez. And for me, the worst thing for my back even now is sitting.
What was that feeling when you woke up that morning?
I was just what is going on? I was partly demoralized and partly in denial.
Yeah.
I was because I was I was right. I could feel that was block one of a 5-block process that was going to get me back to where I was going to be.
You go from this high to then waking up the next morning.
I'm still going to be a great NBA player. And so, and then of course, the Lakers announced that I had back spasms lifting my bag to go on a road trip that day, and the fans hammered me. That old man lifting his bag, you know what I mean?
I remember
Which
that.
is no big deal.
I was one of those guys tweeting.
Yeah, but by the way, it was I actually woke up with back spasms, wasn't lifting the bag. It was I told the trainer I had back spasms when I woke up. I couldn't get out of bed. I got out of bed and tried to take my bag to the car to try to go on the trip. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, you couldn't even get out of bed, let alone lift the bag. And so it was just like one of those weird deals that kind of grew on itself. And I realized for 2 or 3 weeks, I was still like, I had this crazy nerve issue running down my body. I couldn't do anything without feeling a super inflamed nervous system. And then we played the Warriors in a preseason game, and I was like, I need to try, because this is not getting better. I need to try to play.
And I need to know
if I can play hurt.
Yeah.
I can play. If I can't compete hurt, I swear we played the Warriors, and they had like 50 points in the first quarter. And I literally was limping. I'm running around on one leg. I'm 40 years old. And I was like, after playing 12 games the year before, it took me to play 12 games for a season, to go into another season, play one preseason game and have one bus ride, and realize like my back is a box of cornflakes. I didn't see it for 2 years. I probably should have after that knee injury. It just interrupted my whole nerve system. And, it was like so hard to see. And then I was like, I had one game. I finished the game healthy. I drove home 2 hours, and I'm done for 3 or 4 weeks after playing 12 games the year before. I started to add it all up in my head, and I was like, it's gone.
Done. Yeah.
It's gone. Like, no matter what I did, it was done, and it probably took me too long to realize it.
How long did it take you to get to grips with that, though?
2 more years.
2 more years?
Yeah. Like, I was okay with it. Like, I wasn't a basket case, but I wasn't.
That was kind of when we started to get to know each other better, too, around that time.
Yeah, we became closer around that time.
And take credit.
Yeah, I helped him get through it, yeah.
But I don't know. Did you notice anything in me?
Oh,
from the time I retired
I do, yeah.
to the next year, to now?
Totally. I totally do. I think from my perspective as a friend of yours was seeing you, we were battling a lot of the same things.
Yeah, because you were still coming back.
Yeah, I still wanted to keep giving it another go. And I kept getting to a point, me personally, of, when I was right there and I knew in the back of my head you were done, but I would have little things along the way, whether it was in my PT or my rehab, and I get to, my training would ramp up, and I was just caught in this constant no man's land of like, do you go or do you stay? Like, which road are you taking right now? And I was trying to live both.
Yeah.
And it was hurting me personally because I couldn't commit to one thing. I couldn't progress my life without still knowing that door was completely closed.
Yeah.
And I think I saw still some of that in you, but just, I think seeing you dealing with the transition, because I remember that last year you got us tickets to a couple Lakers games, and I remember seeing you go down into the gym. It's underneath the stadium, right, at Staples, and you would come up and you just say hi quickly because you were still so in the zone, and you were like, I need to do everything.
Bench because I wanted to train the entire game.
Yeah, you needed to train. You trained the whole time. You shot shots.
The whole game. I trained shoot on the court before the game started. I was like, I don't need to be sitting out there watching the game. I need to be training so I can be on the court.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would train in the morning. I would train during the games. Anyways.
Train at night, but to that effect, you did everything you possibly could to get back. And it's easy to say now, but maybe to a fault because of how much you cared about it, and was that you lived your entire existence of like judging yourself on every action from when you woke up in the morning. Sure. How you ate, how you worked out, how you how your body felt, because your body at that point better than you've ever known it your whole career, to then getting to a point where you're happy in your personal life and you're what you're going to kind of transition to after and stuff that keeps you inspired, because we all had that every morning we got up, and what really got us going was playing, man, and competing and playing, being on the world stage and playing against the best, and like that was what you identified with, right? To then come to realize and be okay with like that chapter is done and it was an amazing chapter, but I'm gonna have another great life after this. Yeah. But like this is being okay with like, hey, this is done, and that's a tough process, man. It's a really tough process.
It took me 2 years. I remember your process. So I retired and you were just coming back. Like you were just coming back like where you'd had your surgery, you'd had your 6 to 12 months of recovery, and you were going into a January camp possibly. And I remember that kind of like 4, 5, 6 months before that January camp, which must have been 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Where you were like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And I was like trying to pump you up. I was like, you can, because I just come out of it. And I was like, I came out of it. I was like, try to get everything you can out of it, at least so it's you can put it to bed down the line and say, I tried again. And so you never want to be down the line and be like, I could have gone for one more
Yeah.
shot. And you did that too. But I remember like coaxing you out to the park.
Dude, I
Like,
remember
being like,
I remember
"Come-
that like yesterday.
Come on, let's go train. And I take you, we get up a few balls and out to the park.
In
And
Playa Vista, pinging balls at you and taking. I was so timid, like going around cones.
Yeah.
I couldn't cut on my knee. You invited me out to the Playa Premier League the first time. We're playing on this grass field.
bumps everywhere.
Call it a grass field if you want. It was sand, it was bumps, and I'm like, Steve, really? Like my knee is gone in about 5 minutes here. But I got through that, and then I got through the next week, and I got through the next one. I kind of got the love back for the game.
Well, and we had sessions here, like at the park here, and like in Redondo, and all around. We'd done a lot of like training where we were doing different things, like running stairs and doing ball work, and part of me was like excited to, it's my daughter. My daughter says to me in the car today, "Are you and Stu vlogging today? You're so cute."
We're vlogging.
13-year-old who thinks that like old men, vlogging and doing podcasts is ridiculous. But anyways, I remember dragging you out a little bit at times because you were like, I don't know. And then but you kept passing every test. And then you went to January. National team every year in the US has a January camp for guys that aren't playing in Europe. And they look at a lot of younger talent, and they bring in guys in situations that they've had before that are injured or whatever. So they definitely brought Stu back in as a mainstay with the national team. He goes to January camp. The first 4 days is flying.
Yeah, best I've been in years.
And by the way, like the coaches are saying things like he's even better than he was. Like he's unbelievable. And then an innocuous move, and you hurt your knee again.
Knee snapped, yeah. But honestly, like I needed to make a plan,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. Like now, even in life, looking at like having goals and having a plan, and having conversations with you and Martino and other friends of like, dude, being caught in this constant gray area is not good for you. Like, if you want to give it a go, make a plan to do that. And so that was for me. I called Jurgen Klinsmann and I said, like, Jurgen, this is kind of what I'm going through. We had lunch the next day, and he said, come out to January camp. Let's see where you're at. That was 2 months from that date. So I had 2 months. I had a goal in sight, and I trained harder that 2. I mean, I was running. I was with Holly every day. I was playing with you. I was doing everything I possibly could to get ready for that January camp. Going to January camp, second day, beep test, second place, having not played for 2.5 years, training for 5-6 days, amazing. Next day, knee swollen. And that was for me the moment I needed to just be like, you know what? My daughter was going to be born 5 days after that. I was just like,
that's crazy.
You're
to
done.
think
man.
about now, Kenna, like his daughter's like such a huge part of all of our lives. Do you think she wasn't even born at that point?
No, I know. It's amazing, man. Well, she's 2 next month.
Yeah.
So that was almost 2 years ago today. But like it felt the natural time for me to just say goodbye to one life and enter into what is next in broadcasting and being a dad, which is the best thing ever, man.
The athlete dies twice.
Indeed.
Like you have to, like, I said this a million times, people are probably yawning if you ever heard me talk. But like the athlete dies twice. When the end of your career comes, like that's something you've put your whole identity and purpose into, and it's gone. And like you have to say goodbye to that person. You have to like grieve and like.
Which is very unique though, right?
It's crazy.
There's not many careers where your maximum like career span is going to be early 40s.
Yeah.
I mean,
at the best.
At the best. I mean, in soccer, I'd be happy to be 35, 36.
I mean, when's the last time you actually played for the national team or for Bolton?
2013.
So how old?
5
were
years
you?
ago.
So you were 27?
I was 27, 28. So that's still relatively young, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, you should still be playing now.
Yeah, I know. I technically should still have another 3 years.
If you didn't.
After kicking for Houston, I'm like, come on, let's go.
But anyways, that's kind of a nice way to wrap it up. Maybe we answer a few more questions.
Yeah,
but that's
I think
another pod would be.
Tian Tang has written a few. Oh my gosh. What's your thoughts on a tense confrontational winning environment, 2000 Lakers versus joyful winning environment, Golden State, your Phoenix days in competitive sports? All the best, mate.
Obviously, you want to be in a situation like Golden State where like everyone's unselfish, enjoying each other. Like that's the ultimate. Like I think about this as a consultant for the Warriors. Like whenever there's like a little mini office dramas with the Warriors, which is inevitable in every situation, everywhere, every office, every team, everything, right? I think like I just want to remind everyone like the Warriors probably are number one in all of sports right now.
Yeah.
They have the competitive advantage with their playing staff and everything they have going on with them and the momentum and the age and the depth. I mean, tell me another major sport that has a team that has the outlook of the Warriors, the forecast of the Warriors for the next potentially 3 to 5 years. And given the last,
I mean, like a couple years ago, I would argue Patriots, but that's. But the Patriots don't have the same outlook now because
Patriots
Brady's
can win this year.
Yeah, but Brady's aging, and the outlook as far as the Warriors of where they're positioned. I wouldn't say Manchester City because they haven't won anything, and they haven't won Champions League. If I'm talking soccer here.
And by the way, soccer is like it's the NBA. We play 7-game series in the playoffs, so usually the cream rises to the top. In the Champions League, or in the Premier League, like.
Yeah, and a one-off.
You never know.
Which is interesting. Alex Bregman, sorry, I'm scratching my mic here. Alex Bregman from the Astros, third baseman who played in our in kicking for Houston. We were talking to him before the game, and Landon Donovan, who's a big Dodgers fan, was like, come on, like Dodgers were probably the better team there. But
Landon said that?
Yeah, I don't know if he's winding him up or whatever. And Bregman said back, he said, like, I get that, but, and we went into their place and we won Game 7, but in baseball, a 5-game series, you can maybe get the better team doesn't win. In a 7-game series, better team wins 99% of the time. And he was like, in that game, in that series rather, we were the best team. And I was like, no doubt it. I mean, you guys won the World Series, but still, it's interesting to know that when you get to a 7-game, there's nothing like it in soccer.
And by the way,
a 7-game series is unimaginable.
But also, the way the games are played in soccer and versus basketball and baseball. Like, look at Mourinho's Inter teams that went to Barcelona and parked the bus and got it done. Or
7 games, they lose 6 out of 7.
Chelsea, you know what I mean? Like, if you play 7 games, you're humped, right? I shouldn't say humped. That's lame. But anyways, there's no chance if you play a 7-game series, Barca's not winning 4, 5, or 6.
No, easy,
right?
yeah.
But in basketball, like, it's so difficult for the team that's not as good. So difficult for the team that's not as good to win 4 games. You got to win 4 games. Like, it's crazy. And I would argue baseball the same, right? Like, it's because it's not like we're going to defend and we're going to get a bit of luck and we're going to hold our lead.
No.
In baseball, you got to keep pitching guys, knocking guys out, getting guys out. In basketball, you got to keep defending a team that's better than you. Like, good luck.
But also, I love the psychology of a 7-game series, right? Because you're facing the same guy the next night, and then 2 days later, and then the next night again, and how do you make those little tweaks within a game?
By the way, like, people that aren't aware or don't understand the game at a high level, the playoffs are so different, right? Because largely in the playoffs, it becomes about tendencies, individual tendencies and team tendencies. But like, this is what they like to run, this is what they like to do, and this player, in this position, he doesn't like to go to his right or his left, and that's what it comes down to. And if a guy has a preferred way to operate, and you take that away from him,
it's going to be exposed.
You've stacked the deck in your favor, and both teams are doing it. And it's about how many guys on each team can avoid being in that situation, and how many times can the other team capitalize on that situation.
So how different is the coaching? Because, I mean, you've seen both sides.
The coaching is just much more in depth, and during the regular season, the coaching is about your team. Because you're like, let's try to perform at our best. Let's try to grow as a team. Let's try to play as efficiently as possible.
We're going to run our offense
our rhythm
every day.
And of course you scout, but the scouting is like, I would say the wisest way to approach regular season scouting in the NBA is be very simple, very clear, largely stick to your principles, and adapt to 1 or 2 or 3 things of the other team. Because you're playing every other night, right? So why would you spend so much time trying to study every team? Because the reality is, young guys you've lost them. If you have a film session before a game and you're asking them to remember 10 things, if you ask them to remember 3, they might remember 2.
Yeah.
So let's go there instead of 10 things where they're like, throw them all up, right? And so, but when the playoffs come, they've already played that team either twice or 4 times in the year. They have an understanding that it's time to lock in. They're only going to play this team for a week to 2 weeks. Let's really hone in on the people's preferences, and so that's what happens in the playoffs.
But and the mentality shift too, right? Because of how we've grown up within American sports. Of when the playoffs come, there is another level, but everybody to that extent is also that much more dialed in and in tune and listening to film sessions and making the tweaks and the adjustments and pulling together, and a lot of the egos kind of go out the door at that point.
When the level raises, the psychology becomes more important, and then you're right. When everyone hones in, and then the media and the narratives and the fans and playing someone every other day, like it gets chippy,
No, I know.
and you know what I mean. You hate each other, and so your heightened, response to the scouting report, to the film session, to the game, and can you manage that versus the emotions of the press, the fans, family and friends in your ear? Like it's everything's. It's all
Kyrie's doing you in today.
It's all encompassing.
John Stockton's
right?
having you on toast.
Yeah, I got my my cousin in England texting me like, "Pull your finger out, dildo." Like, what do you mean, pull my finger out?
It's the best.
Dildo. That's you know what I mean?
What am I holding?
Yeah, Jesus.
Hello.
He's holding one right now.
All right. Well, look at that. We're at 56 minutes.
It's probably-
I mean, we're normally like kind of always on an hour-ish.
It's probably a good time to say goodbye.
Yeah, it's always
is
a good
anyone
time.
still watching? There's a few
We're down to
people over here.
35 on Twitter. We had a solid stream.
I love that we like try to go up against happy hour on a Friday night. You gotta love it, you know.
This is your happy hour with Stu and Steve, Two Dads United. Woo! All right.
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw! We're out.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Peace.
That's enough. Abrupt.
I'm done.
How's my gray hairs, by the way? I like that.
Gray.
What's up with
hairs?
this?
The whole hair.
Oh.
View stats. 5,000 on
Oh, man.
Twitter.
Is that hard for you to listen to us for an hour?
Yeah.
I bet you're like, Jesus,
Oh my God!
shut
17
up.
text messages. It's like I feel like Steve Nash.
Someone that got traded or something.
Yeah.